Hey everyone, welcome back to Death Must Die's Act 3. Today I want to talk about character building and loot in Act 3. I think there's some serious problems with where this act has landed we're going to discuss today. Just before I get into it, guys, most of the people watching the channel at the moment are not subscribed. It would mean the world to me if you help us get to our 1500 sub goal. So with that being said, we'll break it down into a few different sections. Firstly, it feels like the game really was balanced around these super gimmick tier exotics or uniques. Stuff like Mausoleum of Ice, Sloth, and the Novum Tarvo, they provide such a huge upside that the downside kind of feels irrelevant, especially on some of these builds where you can very much build around the downside and have it pretty much not be a downside. I mean, some of them are still sort of a downside. And then there's the fact that you can unequip, re-equip them during a run. There is a 60-second cooldown, but the problem with these uniques is twofold. Number one, the power they provide is significantly higher than the regular character builds that don't want to use these uniques. And the other one is ones like this that remove your strike, cast power, and summon slots. They remove so much junk out of the blessing loot pool that it makes getting what you actually want in your runs significantly easier, which means you don't have to spec into as many dice as well, which means you're actually a lot freer in how you build your character. The actual way you build your character using these things, I don't necessarily dislike on a pure technical functional level, but the way they've been implemented here, they are so much more powerful than the regular builds. It just feels bad. The problem is if you just nerf these and don't bring up any of the character builds that suck right now, yeah, the game's going to feel even worse, but hey, it is what it is. So let's talk about the affixes and the itemization. I think itemization in Act 3 feels pretty messy right now. I'm going to show you summons for an example here. So there were already at least 5 summon affixes. They've added like 2 or 3 more. So there's like 8 at least now that can roll just one damage type category now, can roll up to 8 different affixes on your gear pieces. Not only that, they're sort of sprinkled around everywhere, right? So while it is technically possible to get like a high damage roll on, let's say, a weapon, for example, there are so many affixes that can roll in all of these slots now that it's starting to feel very, very bloated, which means when you see a mythic tier 3 item drop, it's very, very rare that you actually find one that has min-max stats for your build. Now, I'm not saying every gear piece that drops needs to be min-maxed or anything like that. What I'm saying is the affix pool on these items is starting to feel so bloated. There's so much that can roll on all of these different slots. This is a dash setup that we're using here, but there's so much that can roll in all of these different slots now. It's starting to feel bad, and I think summons in particular is a really, really egregious example because they just added several more on top of what was already a large number of affixes. Not only that, they've also introduced really, really high affix rolls on certain stats like cooldown reduction and duration, and then they've nerfed the blessings themselves. So they've removed a lot of power out of the blessings, the base blessings, and they've moved it into some affixes like cooldown reduction and duration. And some of it has, some of the power has then been moved to the fates and their evolutions. I don't really like the fact that they take up an extra slot, like cast slot, strike slot, whatever. I just remove that. They should just be a free upgrade, not free, obviously. They should be an upgrade that you take for your character when the fates show up and present them to you. They shouldn't be this thing that feels bad to take because you're gonna miss a slot now, right? So just bloat in general is a problem that's really, really starting to affect the game. So not only is it the affixes, in my opinion, the blessing pool of the gods now. There's more gods than there ever have been. Each god now has summons and passives and casts and strikes and all that stuff. They all have legendaries on top of it. And then now the fates seems to show up a lot more often now because they're way more important because their blessing rolls can provide significant power boosts, right? So now we have such a convoluted and bloated blessing pool. Now to compensate, you have to give the players more dice. So now it's just like bloated affixes, too many dice required, bloated blessing pool, and it's just the game and the character building in the game is starting to feel really messy and convoluted. And I don't think it feels particularly good right now. The other thing I want to talk about is some of the power was stripped down to these skill trees, especially on Merus. Like, telekinesis and aspect of the Hydra feel really, really pretty bad in this patch. I mean, you have to stack up so much cast damage on your gear before this starts to feel anywhere near decent. And then if you're stacking cast damage, you are missing cooldown reduction, you're missing duration, you're missing cast projectiles. So there's so many stats now that you want to squeeze on these gear pieces, and they just don't fit. And having these skill trees feel really weak for some of these characters is such a bad idea. This is what we went through in Act 2 when Nixie and Skadi felt like complete trash. And everyone complained for months and months and months, and then they end up giving them huge buffs. And now here we are in Act 3, where someone like Kront is insanely OP. Almost everything in his skill tree is fantastic for Act 3. Whereas over here, Merus has been, you were too strong, casts are too good, slap on the wrist type deal, right? Negative 100% damage for Hydra? Why? Why is it still negative 100? Buff that up. Increase telekinesis again. I don't know. I think dash blessings feel really bad too, especially I don't know, man. Like, especially the one that can only get to level 5. You're not really taking advantage of the one that gives you more dash. Every level spending dash blessing, you get lightning circle gets more damage. What about the ones that only go up to 5 instead of 10? It's not even consistent in the game right now. So dashes don't feel good. The summons have been completely ruined in this patch. They feel strangely really strong versus normal enemies, and they are so bad versus the bosses. They die in one hit. I even was stacking big life rolls on, like, my helmet, for example. They get one tapped by the tree boss, and they all die, and then you're just floating around the arena like, the fuck? How am I supposed to kill this boss? All my minions are dead. Oh. Okay, and the fourth point I want to talk about here is now the game is balanced around having low life rolls and 2 revives on your chest piece. So it's guaranteed to roll 2 revives on every single chest piece in the game. Unless it's a unique or a tier 1 or tier 2, then it won't be, obviously. But tier 3, it's guaranteed to roll you 2 revives, and 75 is the max life roll. The max life roll on many of the items, that's a tier 2. So most of the tier 3 items, the life rolls on them are very, very low now. I have not seen anything that even comes close to what Act 2 had for life rolls, right? So you can't stack up your life. On Merus, it's pretty hard to get above 250. I'm using tier 2 here to get up this high. If we took this off, it would be around about 200 or so. So it's pretty hard to really get above that 200 to 250. And man, we are so squishy on Merus. And then to compensate, they introduce something like this, which is, honestly, it's, where is it? Here. Plus 3 revivals, you lose life regen equal to a percentage of your max life. Oh, why would I want to spec to be a revive stacker in this game? It feels so bad, man. I really, really, really dislike the game being balanced around having revives. It just feels so bad, man. One of the main reasons is, what happens if you ding your 2 revives super early in a run? Why would you continue? Like, especially if it's you get to Frog Boy and it's ding ding, double dings you. Why would you possibly continue if, especially you, I don't know. It's so crazy. Back in Act 2, there were so many runs I did where we beat either the first or second boss by just this much health remaining, and we slowly managed to heal our way back up to full. By the time the final boss in, we actually beat the final boss. That doesn't feel like it's possible anymore. The final boss, especially on Merus, you like 2 taps, you're like, it's nothing. It's like, are you serious, dude? And then we have Kront Boy in comparison. He's just freaking insane, man. Where's the living armor? Where is it? This thing over here, your armor bonuses convert to life instead at an increased rate. This thing you can stack up like 2 to 3,000 HP on Kront Boy very, very easily. His skill tree is so strong compared to Merus's right now. He's got insane tankiness, insane survivability. He has huge damage boosts. I feel pretty disappointed in this patch in some ways, to be honest with you guys. we'll continue doing some Darkness 100 runs in the background here. I do want to make some more builds, but I do want to get this as a feedback video out because I think loot and character building right now, it doesn't feel good. I think, personally, I think they tried to take some of the power out of the skill trees and the gear and sprinkle it around elsewhere. But it's made the builds feel, like messy and convoluted, like we talked about before, but super, super inconsistent. And I don't like the builds feeling really, really inconsistent in a loot-based game. I think that's bad. Now, there's obviously going to be some RNG with blessings and your shrines along the run. That's fine. We accept that. But I don't know, man. It's just, it's in a really, really weird place right now. And the problem is there are some outliers that just laugh at Act 3 and make it seem trivial. Like Black Lightning, for example, is so much stronger than everything else. And it's because of this. This enables Black Lightning to have a 24% proc rate. And you just throw on someone like Lorien who can just, you know, shoot out 10 arrows a second or something. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So overall, guys, I am a little disappointed in the current patch the way it is right now. I feel like loot and character building has taken a pretty big step backwards from the procedural patch in Act 2. To be honest with you, I think it's a big step backwards from the original Act 2 patch as well. I mean, that patch was difficult, but we still ended up doing like 50 Darkness 100 builds. We had a lot of fun in that patch, so I don't know. The challenge is not necessarily the problem. I think one of the things that's frustrating me right now playing on Merys in some of these runs is you just get crowd controlled and then two-tapped because she's so goddamn squishy that you feel like you have to put on stuff like Pariah or maybe even Curse of Weakness from Act 2 or the stupid triple revive helmet, which I really, really hate passionately. I really, really do not like revive stacking in this game, so alright guys, so just before we end the video here, I do want to also just rant a little bit about the procedural patch. So last year we had the procedural patch. They did like this 6-week experimental beta branch where we were all testing different builds and different ideas. They were doing a whole lot of different balancing stuff in the background. They were seeking community feedback. They were putting like questions up on the Discord, you know, what feels good, what feels bad, what's strong, what feels weak, etc, etc, etc. After that whole period, we ended up in this place where there were a lot of builds that felt really fun and viable. You still had to build correctly to clear Darkness 100. You still needed some defensive stuff. You still needed some healing, and you still needed good gear. You needed to grind, and you needed to have game knowledge. You still needed those things, right? So the game was a bit easier. Perhaps it could have been toned up slightly in terms of difficulty, but Act 3 just feels like bullshit difficulty. It's not fun difficulty to have 3 different crowd control methods be the reason that you always die. It's pretty frustrating from my perspective. I feel like we kind of got taken a little bit for a loop there. Like, what was the point in getting the community to engage with this beta branch and do all this testing, all this feedback, if you're just going to do a rug pull when Act 3 comes out? Nah, those those builds. Yep, no. Except Crop Boy and Black Lightning. They're fine. We'll give them a pass. I don't know, guys. This patch is landed in a weird place for me. I'm going to keep giving my feedback because I still do really, really like Death Must Die overall as a game. I think these are serious issues that need to be addressed for Act 3. So I'd like to know what you guys think. If you think I'm crazy, if you've discovered any super powerful builds that I haven't tried yet and you're having a great time, let me know. If you've found some interesting builds that do not use stuff like Sloth and Mausoleum of Eyes and Novum Tavo, let me know as well. With that being said, guys, I hope you all have a fantastic, amazing day. I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to smash like and subscribe.